Welcome to Mr. R's art class. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thumbs, subs, and ring that bell. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a value scale using Tempera. You're going to have a gradient here on top. So a gradient is going to be a smooth transition of using just black and white. And then down here, you're going to have these different shades. Each rectangle is going to be a different shade. It's going to go from lighter to darker or darker to lighter here. So first thing you're going to need here is a tray. You're going to put your black paint here in the middle, and then some white paint here on the outside. Then you're going to need a cup of water, only filled halfway, some paper towels, and a paintbrush. So this is what we're trying to make here, is that we're going to start with a black on the right hand side. It's going to get lighter as we add white to it, and it's going to turn into white once we get to the left hand side. Same thing over here, but each shade is a different rectangle, or each rectangle is a different shade. We're trying not to go past each rectangle. Each color is going to be within its own rectangle. So let's go ahead and get started. And you do not need too much black paint. You only need a little bit of black paint. And you don't need too much white paint. We could add the white paint as we go along. But starting with just the black paint, you don't need too much. You don't need to cover this whole tray. With black paint, you just need a little bit of black paint here in the middle. So again, try to get that black paint right here in the middle of the tray. And you don't need too much of it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our value scale. And you might have to add some water to this black paint. So let's go ahead and add some water to that black paint here. And you want to go ahead and mix it up. I'm going to add a little bit more water and just dip my brush in there. Try to smooth out this black paint as best as possible. And you want to go against the edges here. When you have your black paint, you want to make sure you have an even amount of paint on your brush. So that's why I'm kind of going against the edge here. Alright, and so we're going to start with the right hand side. I'm going to paint this first rectangle down here. And the trick is to try to stay within these edges. And you might need some more black paint. Again, try going against the edges. As long as you're using the same shade, you don't need to wash your brush yet. So again, you're trying to get each shade inside of its own rectangle. Let's add some more water to that. So if it seems like it's a little bit too hard to kind of mix around this paint or to apply the paint, then you might need some more water inside of your paint. Okay, so there's the first rectangle down there. So since I have black on my paint, I don't want to contaminate my white paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush. And you want to mix it against the bottom of the cup or against even the sides of the cup. That kind of helps get some of that black paint off. If your water gets too dark, you can go ahead and change out your water. But this is why we also have some of the paper towels here too. And you want to get some of that paint off. Rinse it as many times as possible or as necessary. And some of this paint isn't coming off the brush, it's just coming off of this metal part here. Okay, and so what you're going to do is you're going to dip your brush inside of the white paint, and I'm just going to do one side for now. And you're going to mix it all inside that middle part. Again, that's why we did the black paint in the middle, so that we could have some more space here to mix. And again, this is just all with that small amount of black paint that we started out with. So you might not be able to tell now, or you might be able to, but this is actually a lighter shade of the black. So this is going to be the next rectangle here. And you can rotate your paper if you want to help you kind of get some of these edges. You don't have to keep it in that direction. So again, if it's hard to apply this paint, you might need some more water. And if your water is getting too dirty or too dark, go ahead and change it out for some fresh water here. You could even flip your brush. The other side of your brush might have some more paint on it, so you might not have to keep going back and forth. You might just need to flip your brush. Okay, so there's that rectangle. So again, we're going to add some more white to this brush, so we need to clean our brush. And we're trying to make this happen gradually. That's why we're only adding a little bit of white paint at a time. Clean off your brush. So again, we're going to try to add the same amount of white paint, right? So I'm only doing one side, the same amount of white paint. I'm not scooping it, I'm just kind of getting one side of my brush with white, going inside that same black tray in the middle, that same black tray in the middle. And you can tell on this time it's getting a little bit lighter, right? So it's almost a gray. Again, go against the edges here. And next rectangle. Again, if you have to rotate your paper, go ahead and do that. Flip your brush if you have to. Maybe load your brush up again. Go against the edges to get some of that excess paint off. Alright, so it's going to keep getting lighter and lighter as you go towards the left. So the way that you could do this top part up here is, as you go along and you're doing these different rectangles down here, you could also be applying these same shades up here to the top. And remember that these top ones are going to be smooth. They're going to blend the black colors into the gray, and as you move towards the left, it's going to get white. So again, this is what it's going to look like here. It's going to be a little bit more blended than these rectangles. And as you're doing these rectangles down here, you could be applying these same shades that I made to this top part up here. And you could blend it in with your finger if you want, and that kind of helps hide some of those lines there. You could use your brush if you like. But you already have the shades down here, so since you already have them, you could apply them to this top part. This top part's a little bit trickier, it's going to take a little bit more time, but you could, again, once you have these two shades up here, pretend you have these two shades up here, you could blend those into together using your finger or using the brush. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. So if you want to do this top part up here separately, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that real quick. So you have this top part. I have some black paint here. We're going to go ahead and, again, you don't need too much black paint. So make sure you wash your brush. Get all the water off your brush. And go ahead and mix that black paint up. Again, if you feel like your black paint's going to be a little bit harder to apply, you could get some water and add it to the black paint. And then go against the edges here to get some of that excess paint off of your brush. And you're going to paint this first part here. Again, you can rotate your paper if you like. You rotate your paper, rotate it. You need to flip your brush, flip your brush. So again, this one on the top doesn't have the rectangles that this one on the bottom has, so you kind of have to figure out where you want to start blending these different shades together. Alright, so this is the top here, and this is black, and so maybe about the same width. And then we could start blending into this next shade here. So maybe I'll blend this a little bit more. And you want to start maybe fading it out. And so the way that I'm fading it out is I'm just not adding any more paint to it, or I'm not applying my brush as hard as I originally was. And you can kind of see some of the paper through it. Okay, so that's your first shade, and you're going to wash your brush. Go against the edges here of your cup if you want to get some of that extra water off. So same thing that we did down here, we need to add some white, and we're going to be adding the same amount of white every single time. The same amount of white every single time. Okay, so I have my next shade, and I'm going to put that right next to this other rectangle up here. And so I'm trying to mix them in. The way that I'm mixing them in is that I'm starting to pick up my brush as I get closer to the black, and that'll help make it look like it's a little bit more blended. You could even kind of go like this with your brush here to kind of help fade it in a little bit more. And I'm going a little bit past of where this next shade is going to be because it's going to help blend it a little bit better. When those two colors overlap. Okay, so this is my third shade. This is the same shade here. And so I could just kind of pick up some of this color. Paper towel. Get some of that extra water off. So again, this is the same shade down here, so I could just pick up some of this. Some of this is dried out, so I can add some water back into it if I want. Okay, and then I can overlap this shade with that one up here. Again, as I'm getting closer to maybe the middle, I'm going to start picking up my brush a bit. You can also blend it in. You're kind of hitting it with like this with your brush. So I'm picking up my brush. So there's that shade. Going a little bit into where this rectangle is down here. Alright, so now this top part is caught up with this bottom part. So let's go ahead and wash our brush. Get all that extra water off. So if you like, you could do both of these at the same time now. So I'm going to add the same amount of white paint into this middle part. Okay, and so this, I could use this same shade for this rectangle and for this top part, since I have the same color at the same time and since we caught up here. So this could be for this rectangle here. And again, if you need to rotate your paper, rotate your paper. Flip your brush if you need to. Okay, so since we have the same shade, we could go ahead and paint that part in since we already have it. Maybe add a little bit more water if it's starting to dry up. Alright, so we have the same shade. And we could probably start halfway through this rectangle, but up here, again, that kind of helps blend it in when we're adding the next shade. And as I'm getting closer to where this shade actually needs to be, I'm starting to pick up my brush, maybe not pressing as hard. Right, it's even making a different sound because I'm picking up my brush a little bit more. Some of the paint's even a little bit dried up. Right, you could go like that to help mix your brush a bit. I'll mix that paint. Right, and it's starting to blend in there. Alright, so that's how you make a value scale. That's how you make these different rectangles down here. And that's how you blend to make a gradient. So again, we're fading this black paint into a white. By the time we get all the way down here, this is what it's going to end up looking like. So it's going to end up looking like this here. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.